We are back with another Keiko Talks, and tonight we are talking about dreams. I don't know about you, but I'm always wondering what my dreams mean and why I have specific reoccurring dreams. Lately, I've been having some crazy dreams, and I want to know more about them. So let's dive deep into our dreams discussion. We are talking about dreams tonight, so which I'm really excited about because my dreams. I don't remember a lot of my dreams, but I remember the weird ones and or the ones that I've had, and then it like kind of comes into fruition in the present, I guess you could say. So I'm super excited about this. However, we're going to start out with some kind of like the scientific part of dreams, kind of get into like why we have them, and like the theories kind of behind dreams. And then we're going to get into some of the crazy dreams I've been having and maybe what they may mean. So Courtney's going to explain to us about Sigmund Freud. He's a hot, controversial topic. People love him or hate him, but he's interesting nonetheless. So, Courtney, explain to us who Sigmund Freud is.
Yeah, so like Catelyn was saying, Sigmund Freud, the reason why I actually wanted to start with him is because so much of actually how we culturally think about dreams comes from his theories on psychoanalytics. So for those who don't know, most people know Freud by like, he's kind of like I was saying, he's got those theories that are embedded in our cultural kind of ideas. So you kind of, even if you don't know him specifically, like by name, you've probably heard of something he developed. Anyway, so
for sure,
especially things like Freudian slips and stuff, people use those terms all the time, and like conscious versus unconscious mind. Anyway, so brief bio on Sigmund Freud. He was an Austrian neurologist, founder of psychoanalytics, like I was saying, or the like kind of the study of like psychoanalysis, which was basically a clinical method for evaluating and treating pathologies in your psyche, right? So he would use like through dialogue between patient and a psychoanalyst like himself, he would help to kind of uncover information about a patient's psyche, and he developed theories surrounding his findings through his discussions with his patients. So he's very famous for theories on like the unconscious mind, as well as like the Oedipus complex. And I believe there's like the Electra complex, which is like the female version of the Oedipus complex. I believe that's what it's called, but don't quote me. His theories on the id, ego, superego, those are all theories tied specifically to Freud. And we could get into the nitty gritty of what the Oedipus complex is and the id, ego, superego, but honestly, that's a whole other discussion conversation. Just know that that's stuff that he developed under this umbrella of psychoanalytics and psychoanalysis. And like I definitely would encourage you to look up Freud, because I think a lot of, like I was saying, of the theories he developed have shaped a lot of contemporary culture.
For sure.
And kind of how we see things, you know what I mean? A good, actually, just to bring this back to film, Alfred Hitchcock films have this kind of like psychoanalytic element to them, especially you watch films like Vertigo and Psycho. There's this kind of like conscious versus unconscious mind, like repression and desire. Those sorts of themes, when those come up, that's kind of a Freudian idea. You know what I mean? Anyway. But something I found that I think is really interesting that he came up with was this idea of like free association to analyze his patient's dreams, right? So a big actually theory that he developed was, or a field of study, was his study of dreams, and he actually wrote a book called Interpreting Dreams, which is about his theories on dreams and how they work and how they like kind of function in our psyche, right?
So, isn't he known for hypnosis too?
I don't know if he's really known for hypnosis. I just know he's known for free association, which I'll explain.
I do know that, but I was wondering, like, because he's really big on like entering in the subconscious mind. So I didn't know. I can't remember if it was him or someone else that I guess like focused in that realm, or which I could see him doing, but sorry.
No, that's all right. No, that's a good question, because I honestly don't know if he was really involved with hypnosis. All I know is he's kind of like the shrink who like goes into your mind, like, you know, those like we've all seen the stereotypical like shrink in the office with the like random blotches on the paper, like, well, what does this mean to you? And then someone like, it was like random blots of ink, and everyone's like, it's a squirrel in a park. You know, like that's kind of like the Freudian idea of like something else is going on here in your subconscious mind. That's why you came up with this. You know what I mean? That's why you like see this, you know? Which has been played out time and time again in films and like, you know, TV and you know, in our culture. So people, whether they know it or not, Freud's theories have kind of touched just about everyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I also think too, like if you've ever taken a psychology class, or maybe even sociology class, more psychology, but you might have dabbled in sociology. You probably have heard of some of his theories, if not him alone, because he's pretty, like I said, people either love him or hate him because of his theories, how he practiced his theories, came to his conclusions, even with his association with like women and how he delved into that realm. He's quite controversial in the, I guess you could say, science or sociology, or psychology world.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And just to go back to his theory specifically on dreams, since that's like, you know, our topic for this podcast, he developed this method called free association to analyze his patients when they were discussing their dreams, which meant he encourages patients basically to relax all of their critical faculties, all of their like, I guess their logical sense, sort of, to relax all of that and to just let any kind of thought, any like deep, dark, ugly, whatever, like come out and explain to him, no matter how ridiculous it was, how unpleasant, how taboo, how triggering, I guess it was. So he encouraged his patients to just sort of like let it all go, like let it all out, you know, no matter what the deep, dark, ugly nastiness of it was. And so through that, he developed the idea that really all dreams are just the fulfillment of repressions and like infantile wishes, so, and desires. I think like infantile, I think they mean not so much like stuff you want as a child, like a baby, but more like these kind of base urges, like primitive, you know what I mean, type urges of like, I want to do this, like I want to do it, no matter how ugly and nasty it is, like wanting to hurt somebody or wanting to. I
can see that.
Yeah, like he's like, your dreams are just basically fulfillments of what you already want. Like you want something, it's a desire you want, but the only way it can come out through is like through your dreams, because you can't act these things out.
I can see that though, because I do think like the crazy dreams that I've had, they have been, you could say, been rooted in either survival or like out of the 7 deadly sins, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Yeah. Which, you know, there's 7 deadly sins. However, some of those are rooted in necessity, in a way.
Yeah.
So.
It's you know, it's basically the idea that there's some like unrepressed desire you have, but it's too taboo to accept, and like it doesn't make its way to your conscious mind, so it sits in your unconscious and comes out in these like spurts as dreams, because you still like have these like base desires, these like primitive desires to enact certain things, you know. And I think also something we should know is that a lot of Freud's theories were also tied to like psychosexual things too. Like that's actually kind of important to understand, because again, those like base desires, I think a lot of times they meant like base sexual desires as well. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that's important just to know, like that's kind of what they mean by like these like repressed ideas.
But what I don't understand about that, if it is repressed infantile wishes, then I don't feel like you are born with that.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying.
Which, that could have been his theory.
Complex. That's what I'm saying. I think like if you get into the Oedipus complex and stuff like that, if you get deep into it, you'll see like a lot of his theories are based on the idea like as an infant, you have these like sexual urges, like in a way that comes out through like your expression of love for like your mother or your father or whatever. Yeah. And I think like he sees these sort of what we consider like nursing and breastfeeding or whatever, like he's like reading into as like a sexual thing too. And I think that's where people tend to like really be like, I can't rock with what you're saying, because like the idea of an infant being sexual is like weird, you know?
Yeah, and for those who don't know what the Oedipus complex is, I'm gonna give you like a brief little synopsis. It's basically a theory saying that children possess sexual desires from their the parent who is of the opposite sex.
Yeah.
Than the parent who is the same sex, and they see this parent who is the same sex as them as their rival.
Yeah.
So they're basically sexually attracted to, if I'm a girl, I would be sexually attracted to my father, and I would be repulsed and or envious of my mother.
Yeah.
In layman terms.
There's also the Electra complex, which is like it's similar to the Oedipus, because Oedipus is mothers and sons, but I believe Electra is like fathers and daughters. But it's a little bit different. I read about it like a while ago, a long time ago in college.
Yeah.
And yeah. So it's just
did he come up with the Electra complex, or?
I think it was like a complementary theory to the Oedipus. It's like, if we're gonna have this male female, we need a female male. I think
it's just a different name, but same thing.
Yeah. And they're based off of those Greek tragedies. So if you understand the Greek tragedies of Oedipus and Electra, I think you can understand his theories. I say read Freud and understand it, to just understand where these things come from, because again, like I said, those theories about how our brains work, about our psyche, a lot of that stuff seeps into our culture. It seeps into our medical practices. It seeps into our understanding of ourselves, right? Like,
for sure.
Even if you take out all of the other Oedipus complex theories of the id or whatever, the vast majority of people in our culture believe that your dreams mean something repressed inside, which is a Freudian theory. That's really what he was saying. Is like, there's something going on deeper that you want, or that you have been trying to express that you can't for whatever reason. Like, that baseline idea is still something that most people believe about dreams.
For sure. Yeah. So we're going to get into what are dreams, right?
Yeah.
And so dreams are basically your mind taking stories and images and forming them into kind of like a movie, a visual while you're sleeping. Some of those can be more vivid than others, a little less details. And they usually occur while you're in what they call as REM sleep, REM sleep. And that stands for rapid eye movement. So that's when your brain is at its most active state during your sleeping. So yeah, that's how dreams occur. We're not going to really go into the science of the stages of sleep or anything like that. Just have a basic understanding of what dreams are. And so, there's different types of dreams too. There's like nightmares, lucid dreams, and I think they're the only other two. But yeah, just need a basic understanding of what dreams are. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, we all kind of like know it's like these like pictures in our head. I think it's actually the closest thing that we have in our bodies that's closest to filmmaking, actually, because it's this sort of start and stop images put together that aren't necessarily linear. Like, it's not like happening in real time. But so our mind it takes all that information, just like a filmmaker does. You take all the footage that you gathered and you put it in a way that's going to convey the narrative, right? Like, there's an intention behind. Not that there's an intention behind dreams, but in filmmaking is to convey a narrative or to convey a theme or a point or whatever. But in your mind, it's like taking all the information from the day and like slamming it together piece by piece. And like, and then it becomes very fantastical and sort of like it becomes disconnected from reality, because it's these images and thoughts and even like people and things that are disconnected that are suddenly thrown together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think it's like a little mini movie going on in your head, for sure. Which I wonder if like whoever created the first movie, what was their, like, how did they get to that idea? Was it maybe because of a dream? Because apparently everybody dreams. So maybe, I don't
know. I think there's definitely, it lends itself to that art form because that's so much of what filmmaking is. It's about images being put together that aren't necessarily linear, like I was saying, So I could imagine. I mean, filmmaking became first there was photography, so still images, and then there was filmmaking. So I'm sure somebody had to think, well, you know what? How do I get what's happening real onto print so I can like preserve it? You know what I mean? I'm sure that was kind of the process of thinking.
For sure, yeah.
And then it progressed. Sure. Well, if I have several of these images in sequence, then it looks like motion. Because for those who don't know filmmaking, there is no such thing as a recording real time. There's only taking still images and slamming them back together basically and creating motion. The illusion of motion. There's no such thing as recording real time. You know what I mean? So it's all photographs. Same thing with your brain. It's like there's sort of like no such thing as recording real time. We're only ever seeing images of things at all times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
In our memories. Yeah.
In our memory too. And that's why I can like come and go and it's so fleeting is because like we don't remember every single image. We can't we don't have total recall, So, I mean, it's interesting. And there's actually, while we're talking about film, there's a film called Mulholland Drive, really famous film, which kind of deals with that, like, almost like a psychosis. It's like the whole film's like a character psychosis. So, you're seeing inside what a character sees, and the film itself kind of takes you through that, like, dreamlike state of going in and out of reality. And it's really a beautiful piece of work because it gets so much into the mind,
Yeah.
Mulholland Drive, David Lynch, go watch it.
Interesting. I've never heard of it, but I might give it a watch.
Yeah.
So some of the things that I also did not know about dreams were that most commonly dreams involve, basically all your senses. You feel things, you see things, you hear things, you smell things. So I did know that. However, what I did not know is that some people dream in black and white, which is interesting. I don't know if that's like maybe individuals who are colorblind or whatever the case, or how you get to that point of dreaming in black and white. And then I also didn't know that people who are blind, they typically have dreams where they're more likely to be able to smell, taste, and hear sounds just because their visual sense is not intact. So I didn't know that. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know about the black and white. That's interesting to me. But I can't see that, though, because sometimes the dreams I do remember having, and I don't remember like all of them, the ones I do remember having, a lot of them, the colors are very muted. It's not total black and white, but the colors are very, it's like almost just primary colors. And it's sort of muted tones. It's not quite as vivid and as real life colors are.
For sure.
Which I can agree with that. Because your eyes are closed. You're in the dark. And so you can't, can I go into another theory here? Not theory, but like explanation. But darkness is the absence of light, which means the absence of color. Color you can only see color because of the color white. White is all colors. Black is no color. So in blackness, where your eyes are closed, I can imagine that you only see muted tones if you see color at all.
See, that's the thing. In my dreams, I see colors, but it's kind of like, that yellow filter, and it kind of makes everything look kind of old and like rustic. That's how my dreams are usually. Like they're not full vibrant colors, but they're not black and white. They're just like, it's kind of like this like wash over it that makes it look more like oldie, more like you can tell it's different than real life. If that makes sense. So that's interesting. Yeah. Even our perspective is different.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I could see how you could get that filter though, is because it's like, I feel like it's almost like your brain trying to remember the colors, even if your eyes aren't open enough to see see all the colors that are going on around you, Because actually our eyes are really like amazing organs because they can like dilate and pick up on like all sorts of ranges of colors and all sorts of ranges of light. And actually the thing is like, I hate to make this like totally filmmaking, but a camera is built as close to like our eye as possible, and it still never really gets to what the capability that our eyes have to pick up certain ranges of color and light. Because again, a camera is a piece of technology, and like there's some amazing cameras out there that really capture amazing, beautiful footage, right? But it's still never even as good as our eyes are. So your eyes are really are like the standard for how we really see everything, including
for sure. And even the idea, the concept of like of color, right, it's really based out of black and white, right? So your eye is perceiving said thing as blue, gray, purple, pink, whatever, you know what I mean? And even my perception of said colors is going to be very different from your perception of color.
Yeah.
So the eyes are definitely a powerful thing, which is interesting to me too, that, that's a huge part of your dreaming.
Is what you see.
Is what you see, but it's perceived so different from what you actually see. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So. I wonder if because dreams are so tied to that first person perspective, like you seeing something, that's what makes it feel so real, is because I can see it as if it's happening versus
or you're like actually in it.
Yeah, or I'm actually in it versus if I was just seeing it like I see a film where I'm sitting in the audience and then something else is projected. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
you're kind of removed.
Versus it's like the difference between being in a film and then being the audience member.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's sort of your eyes help you and taking that first person perspective, that makes you involved in the dream versus just seeing these images play out,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I definitely think like having some of the crazy dreams that I've had, being in it first person, so one of the dreams I had was I was committing a crime, basically. And I really enjoy watching documentaries on specific crimes and stuff like that. But it's very different because it's very different from watching it as these people committing that crime versus when I had that dream. I woke up and I was like terrified because I was just like, how can I do that? Even though it was a dream, I was just like, what the heck? Like, why is my mind going there? You know what I mean? But it brings a whole different element. It's like, in my personal opinion, it was kind of like me questioning, like, am I capable of that? You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
it's that first person perspective throws you for a loop, especially if it's a dream that you don't really want to have, or things you don't really see yourself doing, or out of your character or whatever. It will definitely throw you for a loop.
I always find it interesting when your dreams about something you didn't think you were thinking about. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I didn't think, I went my entire day and never, at least from my perspective, I didn't think about that at all. And then suddenly this pops up randomly in a dream. I've had that happen.
Yeah.
I was like,
all the time.
2 or 3 years removed from someone or something, and then it pops up in a dream, and I'm like, why did I have this dream about this person?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, seriously. No, I agree. One thing I don't see in my dreams, I don't see faces. So I see like figures, and you do? Okay. So I don't see faces. I just see like the figure. Like I can kind of see like the body or whatever. And so I usually like speculate who it is based on who's like around in my life, what that like person looks like from memory, and different things like that. So usually I can kind of assume like, different people or whatever based off of those things, even like how they talk and stuff in the dream. But where was I going with this? What were we talking about? Oh, I don't see faces, but I can remember all of those things. So it's weird to be like, how you're removed from that situation. And then it's like that person came back, you know what I mean? And now they're in my dream. Now I'm thinking about, maybe said trauma that I experienced. Like, it throws you for a loop.
Yeah.
Like it really the day that I had that last dream, I was like really like shook. I was like, nah, that this can't happen. Plus, sometimes like I'll have a dream and then later on in life or whenever the day comes, I'll remember certain things. I'm like, oh my God, I had this conversation. Like I'll be in the car riding around. If you can call it, what is it called? Clairvoyant. But I don't necessarily see it as clairvoyant, but if it is, whatever. So if I'm having those things, if I am clairvoyant for whatever reason, I don't need certain dreams to come true.
Yeah.
I just don't. So
I wonder. Okay, now we should discuss the difference between a lucid dream and a vivid dream.
okay.
So a lucid dream is basically when a person is in a dream while they're aware that they are dreaming. So they are like, it's almost like this, like it's like first person / third person at the same time. It's like I'm in the movie and I'm in the audience, and I'm in the audience aware that I'm in the movie. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
which
double.
is an interesting perspective.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then there's vivid dreaming, where it's like involved. It's just a highly realistic or clear dream, like, or bad dreams or distressing content. So, yeah. So I don't think I've ever had a lucid dream. I've definitely had vivid dreams, but I don't think I've had lucid dreams where I'm like, I'm aware that I'm dreaming and I like can't get out. That seems like it'd actually be kind of hell.
I feel like that's like almost like sleep paralysis.
What'd you say?
I wonder if lucid dreaming is like a form of sleep paralysis or something.
It probably is. It probably is. It's like you're, because sleep paralysis is when you're like awake, or you're like, no, you're awake, but you can't get up. You can't, because you're like still in sleep. Your body's like still sleeping, right? Yeah.
So but you're aware, like you're aware that you can't
move.
Yeah.
That's be scary, because it feels like you've lost all like body function.
Exactly. Yeah. So your mind is going, but your body is asleep.
Yeah.
I could imagine, like, oh my goodness, I could not imagine having sleep paralysis. That would scare the living crap out of me.
Yeah. But how long does sleep paralysis usually last? Like,
I don't know. I don't know anyone with sleep paralysis. I've watched like some YouTube videos on it. And this one individual was saying how like she just like felt like, and with her, I don't know if she was diagnosed with sleep paralysis, but she was just saying this one event, she felt like someone was like there. So I don't know if hers was like maybe like a spiritual thing, or was it actually sleep paralysis? So I don't know, but sleep paralysis is something else.
Yeah.
Like that's something else. I would rather just be asleep and something happen, honestly.
Yeah. I think it's that element of knowing. It's like awareness and not being able to do something about it. I think that's what's like scariest about it. But yeah, I've definitely had vivid dreams to the point where I wake up and I'm sitting there and I'm like, did I just dream that? Or it's so real that I'm like, no, this is happening. This is really happening, until I wake up and I'm like, oh no, thank God that was a dream. You know?
Facts.
Yeah.
It says that sleep paralysis only lasts from like a few seconds to about 2 minutes. In rare cases, it may last for hours. But the people which it makes me wonder if it was a lucid dream or not. You know, that there is like, it's a little gray, but because I don't know, the ones that I've seen watch videos on, they're like, no, it lasted way longer than that. You know?
Yeah. Like, I wonder if it's because I wonder if it's like a lapse in like brain connection, because like your brain has to like tell your body, right, to awaken, and like those functions are supposed to be connected at all times. But I wonder if it's like a lapse in like synapses, basically, where you're not connecting that, okay, my brain is awake now, like the person is aware and awake now, but your body hasn't caught up with that. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm sure a neurologist would know, but
yeah, I think that's like the question mark around like mental health, brain health. The brain is just so complex that like nobody really understands. Even though they're doing like research and studies and stuff like that on it, I feel like the brain is like the ocean. You just really never know, you know?
Yeah.
Just don't. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting to talk about. Like, something I think is interesting, though, is like just culturally how different cultures see dreams, and how dreams are sort of, you know, something that we take to mean something else. It's not just, oh, you just have this dream, or like it's retelling your day or whatever experiences you've had, but that people take dreams to mean something concrete and real in reality. Like I was looking up how different cultures interpret dreams, and I came up with the Asbano people of New Guinea, and they take their dreams like very very seriously. So I'm sure it's tied to their like religious beliefs, but basically what I found out is that when someone has a dream, they use it to kind of interpret things like, okay, we'll have a good hunt, or your dream means that you will, become like a strong warrior or like something, you know what I mean? Like it's very, it's tied to reality in a real way. Like there's something external about it versus just going deep into the mind and trying to figure out what your desires are. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Because I mean, you can even think about like those who may believe in like voodoo and stuff like that, or they may perceive a dream as like, okay, well, this is a sign or an omen to partake into said act. Or I've seen some. This is TikTok, so this is. I'm not sure if it's reliable or not, but a girl, she was saying how if you have dreams about certain things in the Caribbean culture, then you need to, like move or pray over yourself or remove said person from your life or whatever the case. So depending on culture, it definitely is looked at very differently, taken, seriously on a spectrum, and can promote you doing or not doing certain things depending on what the dream's meaning, I guess, is.
Yeah.
So yeah, what do you think the culture? Well, I don't know if America has a culture, but what do you think dreams mean in America?
Like culturally, I think
I wouldn't say culturally, because I think it depends on like race and ethnicity. So I guess you could say in America and then like African American culture.
Yeah, I mean, I would actually say that specifically in African American culture, people say like I've heard my mom say, "Oh, I've dreamed about fish. Somebody's pregnant." Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's these direct cultural ties. Like, if you do this, this means that. If you dream this, this means that. You know what I mean? I had a dream about XYZ, like that kind of thing. A lot of cultures almost see dreams as like omens and like not omens, omens, or like these sort of forecasts of the future. So I think in like, I guess, subset cultures, we see them as that. But I think in America overall, I think it's still very much that Freud idea that your dreams just mean you have some repressed desire. You have some repressed something, like Freud is all about looking inward to interpret your dreams versus like African American culture or even the Azbano people of New Guinea, Papua New Guinea. They are looking externally and forward thinking like, okay, this means something is going to come or something is going to happen. I think it's interesting that play between a dream can be interpreted as something to for the future or something to look internal at your past. You know what I mean?
Yeah. See, I think in America, the idea of Freud is even way too far. Like, I feel like in America, it's just like, oh, that's your unconscious mind.
Yeah.
And just leave it there. You know what I mean? I don't even think they want people to perceive it as maybe something that they want or desires. It's just like, leave that there. It's just a dream. Dismissive almost.
Yeah,
in nature.
I agree with that too. I do think dreams are sort of dismissed as like these like people don't read into them, like you were saying. Like they try to either you're kind of on the Freud spectrum or you just don't. You just totally dismiss the whole thing. Like, oh, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter or whatever.
Yeah.
But we're all having
Freud was definitely like that internal approach of like looking in, see what that means. What does that mean for you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Granted, he perceived it as more of like a sexual thing in a lot of his research, but it was still like looking inward to dig deeper. You know what I mean? Like this is a sign of something else.
Yeah.
Whether it was desire, motivation, or whatever. But in America, I don't really get that. I feel like they want it to be dismissed and send you to a doctor.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I think that's very America is to try to get rid of anything that has to do with like spiritual realm or an unknown kind of realm or like a fantastical, whimsical realm. They try to just dismiss it and like just be like, that doesn't, if it's not hard, fast reality right here, it doesn't matter or it doesn't, you know what I mean? So I hear you on that. I do think culturally either it's dismissed or they sort of get into the Freud if they even get into Freud.
Yeah, like slightly. It's not
Slightly,
even
yeah.
all the way Freud. So,
And I
I
think
think
another,
as a Black culture, sorry, go ahead.
I was saying, just as far as American culture, I think another thing, dreams are synonymous too in America with like success and upward mobility. And like, you say, I'm dreaming of doing XYZ, becoming XYZ. Dreams are really synonymous, almost not with what actually happens at night while you're sleeping and kind of that biological function. It's synonymous with aspirations and success, and quote, the American dream of like opportunity and getting to something, achieving something, which again is a very American idea of like, gotta get something, gotta achieve, gotta have, you know.
America loves to be removed from reality.
Yeah.
Because I mean, let's be honest, that doesn't necessarily have to be called a dream. That could just be called being successful, which we already have words for, or being goal oriented, or striving for greatness, or instead they decide to call it a dream. So interesting.
And I just that's an interesting idea. Is like, why would they refer to that kind of like lifestyle, basically, or that pursuit in your life as a dream, as like a figment of your imagination, or something that's like,
well, maybe that's what it is, though.
Yeah, maybe that's what they mean. Is like, it feels like this far off sort of thing that,
which it really is. Like, it really is, though, because especially like in today's time, it's hard to achieve that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the American dream is what, that white picket fence, the dog, and 2.5 kids, and a wife and a husband kind of thing. You would think that is accomplishable, but now today is it really a dream anymore? It's kind of like a far-fetched illusion at this point.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I hear that. I agree with it. I partially agree with it, but I think that word choice is interesting. That's what most people, when we hear dreams, I think most people associate it with the American dream and not even with what's going on in your
subconscious mind. And I wonder if that has anything to do with them not wanting to use our subconscious mind.
Probably.
For like, a part of mind control is not going into the subconscious mind. I feel like the subconscious mind is more aware than the conscious mind, because the conscious mind is taking in so many things. It only has a certain perspective with all the information that it's taking in, even with just like something like sight. You know how many like rods that are in your eye that are taking in light constantly to perceive different things?
Yeah.
Who's to say that what you're seeing is actually green? That's just what that subconscious mind has been told. So the subconscious mind can perceive it as something completely different, in a different reality, in a different whatever you want to call it. So maybe that's what America's trying to do, is block out the subconscious mind by calling it a dream and making you deflect.
Maybe. That's a conspiracy theory.
It is. Got a new one.
But no, yeah. I mean, I could see, I think so much of our culture is about block out everything that isn't in pursuit of capitalism, because really a lot of the stuff ties back to what's best for capitalism, actually. I think the idea of like you said, pushing the dream, that helps people, that tells people to work harder, work more, do more, to like,
capitalism,
which is a part of capitalism. It's telling people to, even if your dream is to be to do something people don't consider like real work, to be an actor or something. And I consider acting a real work, by the way. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about people who tend to be on the not so enlightened scale. People who, like, you know what I mean? When people consider certain things, their dream, as like not real work, it's like, okay, I have to work to get to a certain point so I can even do that, or if my dream is to go and like live in the woods, live amongst the animals, like still have to work to make sure that happens. It's still this idea of working. So that's what dreams and the American dream is tied to, is work, labor, somehow, some way, so that you can contribute to this system and keep us going and keep us afloat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's America for you.
Yeah. So
that's America.
Yeah,
the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
No, I don't know if that's just that's honestly how our society is set up. So I don't know if it will ever. It would have to be a massive overhaul of how things work for that to not happen anymore. But
Yeah, capitalism would have to be tore down, which is going to be, that's
That's a huge
hard.
battle.
America is rooted so deep into capitalism. America's success is rooted in capitalism. So
America is
without the
capitalism.
downfall of, oh, exactly. So without that, America would crumble. It really doesn't have any other infrastructure besides capitalism. So
That's capitalism. As we saw with the pandemic, actually, like, and we saw how shaky capitalism can be as well, because there's little to no safety nets in these privatized systems, right? So, so yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting. We need to do a whole episode on late stage capitalism, because I really feel like we could get into a serious discussion on that.
Yeah, we should. That would actually be an interesting topic.
For sure. Because it affects all of our society.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, all facets.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. I can get on that topic, especially like health. Oh my God. You see that every day. Big business is ruining health. It's ruining health. Yeah.
Literally.
I'm not even talking about I'm talking about just like work environment, facilities, you know what I mean? We're not even talking about like pharmaceuticals or like interventions and stuff like that. You know? America wants you to stay sick, aka why we have health issues, you know, healthcare essentially.
Absolutely.
Healthcare is not in the best interest of you getting better. It's to keep you in the healthcare system, period.
And to keep money in their pockets.
Yeah. As long as you're in the system, you're making the money. You know, if you're paying for medicine for every month that you have to live on for the rest of your life, you're making the money. Which, I mean, there's simple remedies that you could do to counteract that. You know, people back in the day when, you know, Earth was first created and humans were first here, they lived off the land and they lived decent lives. You know what I mean? They were able to heal themselves. You know, don't get me wrong, like the lifespan was a little shorter because they didn't have all of these interventions, but it was just kind of like survival of the fittest with every other mammal
species
or animal species, right? Obviously, you're going to run into predators. You're going to run into different things. That's not to knock the healthcare system as a whole, because there has been some great
improvements,
inventions and interventions and all that good stuff like that. But, you know, it's in moderation. You have to keep that in perspective.
Well, it's become such a business. Like, they capitalize.
Yeah, it's all rooted in capitalism.
It's like, I think at one point medicine was about advancing and like, how do we actually just understand the human body, how it works? How do we combat certain things that do come up? Because, like, you know, vaccine for polio, who's mad about that? Vaccine for like flu, who's really mad about that? You know, but it's like when a business gets their hand on it, they're finding ways to like privatize it and not make it accessible to people so that they can sell it, so they can monetize it. And that's when it becomes really just greedy.
Yeah, I think about like the big one is like obesity. Obesity is huge in America and other countries as well. But if that's really the issue, then why are we not promoting health, right? And beyond just like health and like exercise, why are we not pushing the issue on making food healthy, right? It's more expensive to get food that is healthy than it is to get food, you know, McDonald's. You know what I mean? So like that kind of narrative for one, and for two, even with like the healthcare, with the food industry, like growing crops and stuff like that. There's so many things in America that are not regulated, especially when it comes to like food and stuff like that. There's so many things that we have here in America. Like, for example, why is the Quakers brand of oatmeal different here in America with all this other byproducts and all these things that are known to be carcinogens allowed here in America, but not overseas where things have been researched and banned? You know what I mean? They want the best. I'm not sure about the complete best, but they have a more of an interest in their population and their people than America does, because America's focused on capitalism. So
I'd agree with that. I feel that.
We digress.
That was a big digression. I want to end that on by just saying, like, I recently just trying to eat healthier, and like you just see how your bill goes up just trying to, even if you are out grabbing something quick, like you're paying $3, $4, $5 more just to have something green and leafy or something, you know.
And even that's riddled with bad stuff. So,
what is that?
You know, and even that's riddled with bad things.
Yeah, and that's not always like the cleanest, like, you know what I mean? So like, you know, because if you think about like organic shops versus like a Whole Foods bill versus going to, Food Lion or 7-Eleven or some place where like food deserts are, like it's harder to get that good quality food because, truth be told, Whole Foods and Bristol Farms and Sprouts, all that is for rich people. Like everybody can afford that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you go in there for 2 items, you're about to spend $50.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Mm-mm.
It's like it's worse knowing better, knowing you can't do better. You know, because you just don't have the money to do it.
Yeah. No. There's a song by Miguel. I'm not going to quote the name because the name is kind of inappropriate, but in the song he says ignorance is bliss, which I know this is like an older saying, but you know, the more I know about the world, it's just like, man, I wish I did not know this.
Yeah.
It really does, because it's like, you know, you're living for, it's kind of like, almost kind of like you're living to die. You're living for unhappiness. You're living to not to be able to achieve things that you want to achieve, especially with America's concept of capitalism. You know, you're just living to pay the rich man, essentially, which is modern day slavery. Let's be real here. You're getting paid the bare minimum.
Technical feudalism. That's what we got to have another discussion on late stage capitalism, because all these terms will come out. But yeah.
But let's be honest. Is it technical feudalism?
Yeah, it's called technical feudalism.
Well, that's literally slavery.
It is.
And
yeah, that's what feudalism is. Feudalism is like a form of like you're a serf and you're servicing this giant landlord, basically, and like you just owe the landlord your labor, your livelihood, basically.
Yeah. So yeah, but we digress.
Yes. Okay, back to dreams for real.
Back to dreams. Back to dreams. That's a good talk, though. We will definitely do an episode on those concepts, though.
Yeah,
capitalism, late stage capitalism, feudalism,
all that. Yeah. Seriously. And I'm sure there's all kinds of books and like research and stuff on this. Like, people have been talking about this stuff for a while now. So
true.
But yeah, so do you want to explain some of the dreams you've had? I know I can't remember like a lot of details about them, but I'll try to interject where I can.
Yeah. Okay. So my most recent dream. Okay. So we're gonna take it back. So we're gonna one of the weirdest dreams that I had before was I was at my sperm donor's mom's house I'm not really sure the time frame, but I was at her house, and I like drove up or whatever. I'm not really sure if I was actually driving at that point in my life or not, but I drove up to her house. And I see like her normal cars that she would have parked in the driveway. I want to say Courtney was with me, or maybe I think my mom and Courtney were there. My mom and Courtney walked in the door. They were like talking or whatever. And I don't know where they went. It ended up, it was just me and sperm donor. Sperm donor is like sitting outside, and he like turns into this monkey at some point, and he's like just going crazy. Like he's just like bouncing off the wall. He's like in my face. Like he's like morphing into different things and creatures. And it's just like, what the heck? Okay. So that's the first dream that I had about sperm donor. And this was, I want to say this was in probably like high school, but I can't remember if I was driving or not. So that was a long time ago. I don't remember all the details. So that's that. So then this recent dream that I had that I remember was I went down to my the sperm donor's mom's house, and it was like a really grassy area, very naturey. Go into the house. It's me and Ricky, and I go in there. Sperm donor's there. Sperm donor's mom is there. I walk in the back, and I end up stabbing her. And so then she's dead. And so I walk out, and I see Ricky there watching TV, and I was like, should we bury the bodies? Oh no, I said, should I call the cops and tell them? And she's like, no, we'll just bury them in the backyard. Like the house is ours anyway. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, okay, fine, cool. And I was cool with that. And I'm assuming Anthony was dead. I didn't see anybody kill him. I didn't do it, so I don't know. But she said, we'll bury them, right? But yeah, so then I woke up and I was like, what the heck does that mean? Crazy. So,
Sheesh.
yeah, no, and like, let's be honest, I don't like very few people. I would rather people just stay on my way, but like, I don't wish any ill will on anyone. So it was very interesting to me to have that dream because I don't, I think everybody's capable of killing somebody in a split second decision, and depending on what the situation is. But like for that, I just don't see myself doing that. You know what I mean? Like that's just not in my character. Am I intrigued by the minds of people that have done that? Sure. But like me doing that, I don't think I could bring myself to do it. Like I just couldn't. So, yeah, I mean, it's just not in my character to do that for one. First of all, like I wouldn't even lay in bed with them to even go down to their house and see them. So it's like, no, like, and the kicker for me was that they have been a part of very traumatic parts of my life and experiences that I've had in my life. And I really have been working on healing those traumas. So I like at that point I was like, okay, well, I'm working on those things, but like I'm really working through them because this has been a lifelong journey. So I was like, okay, I'm in a good place. You know, I'm healing. But then that dream pops up and I'm like, what does that mean? Am I not healed? Am I healed? Is this a sign? Is this not a sign? Mind you, a lot of my dreams, or not a lot, but some of them will come true. So I'm like, this cannot come true. Like this absolutely cannot come true. Mm-hmm. So I was very just conflicted by the dream. I looked up some of the meanings of it, and it was basically saying that, well, there was a lot of meanings depending on who was in the dream, who wasn't in the dream, how you perceived it, what you saw in the dream, what you didn't see in the dream. But yeah, basically the one that I decided to take was that it's kind of like maybe you shouldn't get in bed with that person anymore, meaning like just don't interact with that person, and just kind of like a sign of trauma, I guess, and maybe healing or not healing. But yeah, it was just odd for me, very odd.
I wonder if it came up like because of childhood. Probably.
Yeah, that's what it said. It was kind of like, you know, maybe some trauma that you haven't dealt with or you like suppressed, which I mean, I guess you could say, but like, especially like that stuff, I kind of felt like I dealt with, but then after I had the dream and I kind of like processed it, I realized that the trauma that I have had with that side of the family, I dealt with sperm donor being the traumatic piece, not necessarily her.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's what the dream was meant for, because like I said, in the dream, I didn't kill him. You know, I don't know what happened to him. I just knew that he was dead, and that he was going to, well, not even dead. I knew he was going to be buried. And so I was the one that killed her. And I think it was like a pencil or something. Like it was something that is pretty hard to, me personally, I would assume is to kill somebody with, you know? Yeah. So, I mean, it was just like it was just really odd. So maybe it's just until trauma from her and her part of the traumatic experience with him.
Yeah. So, I do think our traumatic experiences with him are, at least for me, I'll say they're tied to her, because I just see her as really, she aided and abetted a lot of his actions. So I think, I know personally, like I would be as triggered by her presence as his. So I could see if you were going to like harm someone, like subconsciously, she could also be a part of that, you know?
Yeah, you know, and that could very well be the idea there too, is that I think the one thing I can say about sperm donor is sperm donor has also had his trauma. And I'm talking about his physical ailment, which is not an excuse, but that is altering. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I can come to grips with that. You know what I mean? But her and the vindictive nature, even when it comes to, I guess you could say, trying to take us away from our mom, it was just like, what? you know? Even like, you know, the certain things that my mom would instill in us, because trying to be a protective mom and protecting our mind, our bodies and things like that, when we would travel back and forth between her house and his house, she definitely instilled in us sharing certain things with her and having an open floor, an environment to do that in, because we were going back and forth and things were very different between the two households. My grandma did not appreciate that at all. At all. So yeah. But so, it really could be rooted in that. A lot of the things that have happened to us that were traumatic because of him have happened because of her. She definitely had her hand in a lot of things that were going on that I now realize as an adult, that I didn't realize as a kid. I thought it was more of him, but it really, a lot of times, was her. So.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, if you're going to take the, idea of there's some repressed, memory or emotion there, I could see how that could be just, your childhood trauma kind of coming out of your subconscious. Or maybe it was in your conscious mind. I don't know. But I could see that just being kind of like your dream is sort of fulfilling this I don't want to say fulfilling, but your dream enacting this idea of what was traumatic to you, and you actually in your dream you kind of become a part of the solution now that you're an adult in a weird way. Even though the solution is obviously murder, but as kids there was no other solution,
Yeah, no, at all. Yeah, for sure. We were definitely hopeless in that matter. Kids to them were seen and not heard. So, which is the opposite of what our mom was teaching us. Was we were definitely heard. We were definitely seen. And so I could see that. Now in that dream now I finally had that voice to be I'm going to make my own decision.
Yeah. Yeah. The dreams I do remember having, especially as they relate to him, it was always high intensity, high kind of tension for sure. Yeah. So that means that his spirit, his energy was always intense. He's an imposing figure on your life. And so every time he comes up in my dreams, I always feel like I'm fighting him. I'm always fighting. Oh, yeah. You know, even if I'm not necessarily harming him, anytime he comes up, it's never a calm, relaxed sort of interaction. I'm always either fighting someone to tell him to get away from him, or he's fighting me, and I have to fight, and it's almost to the death. So I can see that. Yeah. His energy has always been he's always been a volatile threat type person,
Yeah, and in my dreams, he's always chaotic, which, I mean, that's who he was in
life.
With our experience with him, he was very chaotic, very unpredictable, very just unhinged, you could say, even. Yeah. And so, the monkey dream at first, though that was just an exaggerated version of who he was in real life, that was not far from the truth. He really was very unpredictable. He was very unhinged. He was always he wasn't physically morphing into different beings, but you just never know which part of him you were getting that day. It was almost kind of he had DID, he was dissociating into different people. You just never knew who you were getting that day. Were you getting angry, happy, excited, the quote unquote father that he thought he was, or the single man who lived in a bachelor pad? You just never knew. So, which I wonder if does he have DID? That would be interesting to know. Because I could see that.
I'm learning mental health disorders is a whole heck of a lot more common than we like to think. I'm telling you, mental health issues is that's been actually a massive issue. I think next to things like cancer, I think mental health disorders is as big as something like that, I would say. And it's been slept on for so long because people will be oh, so and so's just weird, or just so and so just doesn't get it. And I'm some of the stuff is indicated and is so and so has an issue, So
I hate that. I feel that dismissive nature has made a lot of mental health things go unseen, unnoticed.
Because it's seen we can't see it, so it's not there. It's here.
Yeah, it's still there. Yeah, and the thing is, sometimes it is quite obvious. People just choose to ignore it because it's not a physical ailment.
But the thing is, it is.
It is. That's exactly.
It is. And
It really is.
I think you hate to say it this way, like cancer is to cells as mental illness is to other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like while cancer goes and infects various cells until it takes over your body, mental illness, somebody who has mental illness goes and infects other people in their lives until it takes over.
Yep.
That's the analogy you can make. I didn't fully understand that until recently, but I understand it now. That's what mental illness is.
No,
or
that's
these
actually a good
disorders is.
That's a good one. Or comparison.
I hope that helps people understand that, like, that's the seriousness of it. Is like what they're infecting might not be a body, a physical thing. It's the emotional, mental, psychological, and sometimes physical health of other human beings in their space. So
very true.
That's what mental health is. For people who don't know or who've never had the experience. You know, and I count myself as very blessed. Like, we grew up in a neurotypical household. Like, we really did. Like, no, our mother who raised us did not have a mental health disorder or a personality disorder. Neither one of us have mental health or personality disorders. Even like some family friends and stuff didn't have personality or mental health disorders. Like, we grew up in a pretty neurotypical space, and so I thought everybody was like that, and that's not the truth.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but I think the reason, like, even if neurotypical, because I hate to say that I've never been diagnosed, so we'll leave it at that. And I hate to be like somebody else is or isn't, right? But one thing that my mom always implemented in our household was we just talked about things. Like, suppressing things wasn't really like necessary because you had a platform and you had the space to do that. So I think that's part of, like, you know, when you are suppressing things, your brain is just compacting this trauma and trauma and trauma and trauma. And I think one of the ways you get DID is like your brain separates because of all the trauma. Like, it just can no longer handle that. So it just kind of like creates a new identity. And so, you know, that could be a huge part of why.
Actually.
It's what?
DID, you disassociate to survive.
Yeah. But it's because of trauma, you know. You have to literally create almost like a new person in your brain because so much has gone on in your brain. And it kind of like creates like a little compartment in there that identity identifies with those traumas, and, you know, your other identity identifies with the new trauma going forward, unfortunately. So
yeah,
it's sad.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to say like everyone's on the spectrum, okay? I'm just saying we did not have the extremes of really any specific disorder. You know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't even have like ADHD or like ADD, which is something like sort of common. Yeah. We didn't even have that. So I'm always, as an adult, when I encounter people who do have those, I always have to I'm like, why are you freaking out about XYZ? Like, why can't you just, you know what I mean? But, and then I realized everybody does not have, like, I didn't grow up with that. So I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know what mental health issues look like. Like, you know, like we have cousins and stuff who've had like those sort of disorders, but we didn't live with it. Yeah. We just, it was honestly like, we live in a very peaceful, non-conflict driven household.
But yeah, for the most part. And like I said, I think that's a part of like just having that openness of communicating, you know what I mean? So a lot of other families, like our cousins and stuff, that didn't have those issues, they didn't have that, you know, so they suppressed a lot of things.
Like trauma. It's like compacted trauma.
Yeah, too, yeah. And that's not to say we didn't have our own trauma, so.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I guess as I've gotten older and experienced different folks in different arenas, I'm always like confused as to how to handle those situations, because it's like, I have never, there was none of that where we come from. You know what I mean? You know, I mean, there just wasn't. Like, even if we were mad about something or frustrated about something, like, we might have had a spat, but there was never, I don't know. It was always resolved via talking, communicating clearly, and making things whole. You know, it was always that.
Very true.
So there was just, I'm always thrown, I guess I can say. I'm always thrown when I'm encountering people who don't necessarily have that same understanding. That makes sense.
Agreed. No, I can see that, because I think my like first interaction with especially a whole other person's family and realizing like they were not raised how I was raised, it was like, oh wow, that's
it's a bigger shock than you like to admit, because you try not to come off as like, oh well, we don't do that over here, or like we have surpassed that. You try not to come off like that, but you're also just like, wow.
I was really taken aback, and I was like, I had some questions. Like, I was
like, how do you survive?
Like, even my approach. Yeah, like even when I met this person's parents, like I was like asking them questions, and they were like looking at me like, how dare you ask that? And I was, like, in my family we do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like that's what we do. In my family, we discuss the stuff that we don't.
Yeah.
The things that we don't necessarily even like about each other, but we discuss it clearly, and we like bring it up, and like it's almost no hard feelings about it, because it's like it's just the truth, and we're discussing it, we're handling it. But
consider it process improvement.
Yeah.
We call it. Like that's kind of how we approach it. It was like, I feel like it's coming typically from a genuine place of trying to, get you to be the best person that you can be, and vice versa. Well, certain things may be taken personally, but it's I think majority of the time it comes from a genuine place. And so that has always been our approach in, announcing certain things that we may not like about each other, or everyone's approach to things may be different, but like maybe try this approach or whatever. But a lot of other people don't do that. So, which begs me to question, how do you expect your child to be an adult and a functioning adult, especially, and be independent when you don't instill those things?
I don't know. I know one thing, when I come across it, I'm like halfway flabbergasted and confused, because I'm like, at our residence, this would not be an issue. Like we say some pretty harsh things to each other, but we usually just agree to disagree and move on. There's nothing else to say about it, Yeah.
Even that lesson alone is huge, agreeing to disagree.
Yeah.
No one has to agree with you.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's interesting. I can definitely say it throws me at times. And I'm starting to learn now to just sort of expect that might be where other people are coming from. And just realize that everyone doesn't have the same like outlook on things that I do. Does that make sense?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, I've given that up. I understand.
I'm starting to. I think I was still holding on to like, well, I was just confused. Like, confusion is really the word. I'm like, this is conflict resolution. Okay.
Yeah. And there's, I think also too, like there's, while their situation is not perfect, there's also things that, maybe our situation can learn from other people too. Like, I've had to learn, because a lot of people that I've come into contact with, their parents basically kind of taught them to take the high road. When I first, was entering into the world, I guess, as an individual, no longer as under my mom and attached to Courtney, right? Because Courtney and I are twins. I had to really realize that like some things, it's just not worth your fight.
Oh,
Take the high road.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Take
the high road.
I think most things aren't your battle. I wouldn't even say everything. I would say most things are not a battle
worth fighting. Yeah.
No,
it's not.
And I don't think another thing I'm learning, everybody is not supposed to be your friend. Everybody is not supposed to like you.
That's a little personal.
No, I'm serious. I mean, that's the truth. I mean that for me too. I realize that.
That's everybody.
That's everybody. And I actually think most people aren't supposed to be your friend. And I think most people aren't supposed to probably like you enough to be like on a friend level. I think it's like you have to, life is about connecting with the people who are that special to you. I don't think it's about trying to just connect with as many people as possible.
And I think also too, most people in today's time see other people especially, as opportunities.
Yeah.
There's a difference between an opportunist and a friend. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Me personally, I believe in keeping my friend group real small and tight. I don't need 20 friends. You know what I mean? I think I literally have, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4 people that I that I keep in contact with. And it's not even like every day. You know what I mean? So, it's 4 people, and I've had these 4 people for a very long time, for years. And, I don't really see anything deviating from that. But other people that have come in contact with me, sure, acquaintance, but I'm sure that it's something they can get from me. And I guess you could say the same for them, or for me getting something from them.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. I agree with that. That's unfortunate, but that's true. I do think a lot of people, maybe most people, see other people as opportunities. I know I don't. I see another person, but I also know that you have to be aware that other people might see you as an opportunity, and at that point, you got to protect you and yours. That's true.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree with Courtney on that. I don't see other people as opportunities. If I'm going to interact with somebody, I genuinely want to be of, even if they see me as an opportunity, I genuinely want the best for you and I want to help you. But what I will not be is exploited by you. So, take that as you will.
Absolutely. Yep.
We digressed again.
Yeah, we did.
Oh gosh.
But we did. I think we pretty much covered dreams. We appreciate you guys listening to this episode, even though we digressed twice. So we hope you got a little extra, a little sprinkle on with your ice cream.
Exactly. So dreams and all. We should like flaws and all for Beyonce. We should call it dreams and all.
Yeah, that's a good. We should definitely name it. That's good.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. We appreciate you listening to another podcast for Keiko Talks. And I think the next episode after this is 11:07 and dark. So we got another good playlist coming for you guys. So
yeah. And the link for the playlist will be in the description box below. So make sure y'all check out the playlist. It's going to be on Spotify before you watch the next episode.
Absolutely, yeah. And definitely make sure you listen before, or you can listen as we're going and talking about it. But because again, we can't play the songs for you, but we still want to make it available, the songs we selected. So definitely check the description box. And yeah, well, it's been a great discussion. Thank you guys again for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.
Bye.